we decided to jump on the opportunity to come out here to Mike Rowe State Park. It's a local state park for us. And we're gonna do a quick 48-hour camping trip, just a family, no trail rides, just a traditional camping trip. It's a chance for us to recage as a family, reconnect, to spend some time with each other, playing card games around the fire. It's also a unique opportunity to kind of tweak our setup, test some of the new gear that we have and see how it's gonna work for us before we go out on the trail and depend on it. It's kind of the mistake we made with the diesel heater and what a debacle that was. We decided to fill the tank before we left. It splashed fuel on everything, including our gear, and into the diesel fuel intake. So we were blowing straight diesel fumes into the tent, and that's not a healthy situation, not a good situation. I told you that to tell you this. On this trip, we're gonna become very familiar with our ZeroBreeze Mark II air conditioner unit, as well as our ElecHive power bank that we're gonna use to power the Mark II, as well as some other accessories that we have. And the Mark II is an awesome air conditioner. I can't wait to put it to the test, see how it's gonna work for us on this camping trip. It's starting to get hot here in Florida, so we're up in the 90s and humidity is on the increase, so this is a perfect opportunity to test this out and see how it's gonna work for us. And then we're gonna also test the ElecHive. It's a 2,500 watt-hour power bank, and I'll walk you through each one of these in detail, and we can nerd out on some of the specs here in a little bit. So I'm really excited about what this does for us and the opportunities that it presents for being able to go out in the summer months and camp here in Florida. Because anyone who's camped out in Florida knows exactly how miserable that can be. So how it's set up right now, we have the additional battery down here. It's a 24-volt battery. It's gonna get us about 4 to 4.5 hours of runtime on this battery alone. Then you can choose to kick it over to the ElecHive power bank, or just say, I'm gonna get 4.5 hours of cooling tonight, and whatever residuals left over in the tent is gonna carry me through, and that's fine. It's up to you however you wanna play this. My only complaint about these batteries is A, they're a little heavy. Without the battery, this weighs 16 pounds. With the battery, it's additional 10 pounds. So it's 26 pounds you're lugging up and down a ladder if you're in a rooftop tent. My other complaint is that we need to use this dongle or a variation of it to connect a power source to the Mark II itself. I have small fingers and I still have a really hard time getting in here and making the threads come in contact. I can get about 2 turns on it, and we haven't had any issues with it backing out or anything like that, but you're not gonna be able to get that tight unless you use like a pair of pliers or something like that. All right, well, dinner's cooking. Let me walk you around, kind of show you the setup we got going on here at Mike Rowe State Park and some of the gear we're testing out and figuring out how the best to use it and how best to suit it to our needs. All right, so we got the ZeroBreeze Mark II hooked up into the side of the tent there. It's just resting on top of the crossbar on our soft top without the battery. So I think we're gonna be okay there weight-wise, but it is kicked off and pumped some cold air into the tent. We're super excited about that. So if you follow the channel for any length of time, you probably recognize this thing. It's a SeaSucker kitchen setup. Just blew our mind with how easy it was to set up, prepare dinner on, and then clean up at the end of the night. So we're gonna put this thing back into play, and we're just super excited to have this with us again on this trip. We've upgraded from the 1-pound green cans to the 5-pound propane bottle. Just going up to our Coleman 2-burner fold-away stove that we have mac and cheese going on right now, and this thing has worked out pretty good for us. It's small, it's portable, it's compact. We're super excited about having that too. Dinner was delicious. We had some burgers, some salad, some mashed potatoes, some mac and cheese. But now I'm gonna head on over there. Kaylin had a dish duty take over for her and start doing some dishes, getting cleaned up for the night. And then we're just gonna gather around the campfire, play some Uno, and just talk and have some great family time. What an awesome night. Such a unique experience to be able to slow down and just kind of enjoy a campsite, not having to worry about packing up tomorrow morning. Just knowing that we can climb out of bed, have a cup of coffee, sit around the campfire and just relax and not have to make any miles on the trail. So this has been a unique experience, something that we haven't done in a long time, and I'm glad we're doing now. Man, the tent is nice and cool. I'm so looking forward to sleeping in this comfortable weather. A couple things, we had it hooked up to the campsite power. This is an RV site, so it had power. We had it hooked up to the campsite power, but the power break, I'll show it to you in a second, got really hot, like really hot to the touch. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm gonna reach out to ZeroBreeze and ask them about that question. But we just switched over to the ElecHive for a couple reasons. I'm curious about how much power it's gonna draw and what it says the ElecHive is gonna last us. The ZeroBreeze has been pumping for a while now, and the tent is pretty cool. Let's keep our expectations realistic, however. We are in a thin wall tent with no insulation, so the ZeroBreeze has to work pretty hard, but it did bring it down about 10 or 20 degrees, so it's pretty comfortable in here. I would say it's 80 or 90 outside. It's probably close to 70 in here. I didn't bring a thermometer, didn't really plan ahead, so that's my bad, but just by feel, I feel like we're doing okay. The ElecHive is saying it's pulling 165 watts right now, and keep in mind that we have the Mark II on rocket mode, which is its like full blast mode, trying to cool this thing down as quickly as possible. I may switch it over to a mode slightly less draw, but it does say that it's going to last us about 15.6 hours on rocket mode. Now we have the ability to charge it here at an RV site, but if we didn't and we were out on the trail, depending on solar power or our car's battery to charge it, it's something to keep in mind when you're operating this thing. But right now we're loving it. It's nice and comfortable in here, and we are going to kill the lights and go to sleep, and we'll see you in the morning. Good morning. First morning at Mike Rose State Park for us, and we slept with the ZeroBreeze going last night. That wasn't without its own sort of figuring outs and complications. I'll talk about that in a second. But man, we slept great once we got the thing figured out. We kept it on rocket mode, which is basically max cooling and max fan speed the entire night. The tent was probably 70 degrees-ish, and I don't know, between the very quiet hum of the fan going and the cool air blowing, it put me to sleep almost immediately. It was fantastic. To the point where I wonder how we camped in the summer without it. And to answer that question, not very well. It was miserable. This is gonna be a game changer for us. We're super excited. However, it is gonna take some kind of figuring out for us, right? When you have it plugged into shore power, which is what we did when we first got here, because we wanted to test configuration, we wanted to test a few things without draining the ElecHive power bank first. We plugged in shore power. That transformer brick gets almost too hot to touch and became kind of a concern for us. It was really hot. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have an electrical fire in the tent, and that was going to cause an issue. In some Googling, some research, and I'm going to reach out to ZeroBreeze, try to get an answer. And when I do get an answer, I'll obviously post that down in the description below, but I want to know if that's normal, right? It puts off a lot of heat, which is going to generate more heat in your tent that you're actively trying to cool down, so it almost seems like you're kind of working against yourself, as well as the electrical fire concerns that we had. So we switched it over to the ElecHive, kept it on rocket, just to see what kind of draw that would be and what an average night, if we wanted to do max cooling, would look like while using the power bank. The thing's power hungry. It draws a lot of power. It was well over 100 watts of power. It did draw our power bank down to about the point where we had 4.5 hours left of runtime on it at the current draw usage that we were getting. We started off with about 16 hours, so do the quick math, it can tell you how much you drew there. Now, do I think we're going to normally run it on rocket out in the trail? I don't think so, but this was a good test to see if we were going full blast, if we could make it through the night into another night, which is something you need to consider, because recharging the ElecHive it's a quick process, but it's not a super quick process. On solar power, it's going to take you a little while. Running it off of the vehicle as we drive trails is going to run a little while, and I don't think with how many miles and how many hours we drive, we'll be able to fully recharge the ElecHive between camping stops. So that's something for us to consider, is how we best utilize the ElecHive and the Mark II to give ourselves a couple nights worth of cool, comfortable sleep. So something we need to figure out. Kaylin's making breakfast now. It may or may not rain today, so we may set up the gazelle tent just in case, so we have a shelter to go to. But I got to get the ElecHive and the Jackery back up recharging, so we have another night. And we're going to do another test tonight where we don't run it on rocket, we run it on some of these lower settings. We'll see what kind of runtime we get off of that, and I'm expecting a dramatic improvement. I'm excited to share that with you guys. But before we do all that, I'm excited to go eat breakfast. Kaylin's whipping up a delicious breakfast hash with some eggs, some ham, potatoes, a lot of cayenne pepper, it smells like, and it's going to be amazing, and I'm super excited about it. So, let's eat. So we have these rigid boxes. This is what we use for our pantry system. Down below is usually like bread, bags of chips, some of our dry goods. There's your trash bag in there to block out all the water and the dust from the trail coming through the cracks here. Then up here is kind of our more valuable pantry items, or more fragile pantry items, I should say, like pasta and things like that. So we usually fill that up pretty good, and then that gets filled up a little bit. Last night we had, you can see that these usually lock up in together, but there's a gap here where something can get through. Well, last night I guess some squirrels pulled the trash bag out, and with the trash bag they were able to get the loaf of bread bag out. So they got enough of that out, they could start pulling chips and bread and things like that out of that gap. So they ate most of the food that was down in there, including what we were going to have for dinner tonight, which is going to be some BLTs. So now we're going to have BLTs without bread, so just like an artisanal open-faced BLT deconstructed. I don't know, I'm not a chef, but that's the plan for tonight. We have enough food, we're gonna be fine, it's not a big deal. Also, we're 20 minutes from home. We can address those issues. If we had to pack up and go get some food, we could. We're gonna try not to though, just because I don't really think there's a need to. There's Nora. We're getting ready to finish cleaning up from breakfast here and kick off the rest of the day. It was supposed to rain. The weather says no rain, but it is overcast and cloudy. So we'll see what it does. We have the gazelle tent just in case that we can set up as a shelter. We can hang out in that, run the ZeroBreeze into there, make it nice and cool, play cards, and just get out of the weather. So we are prepared for just about any scenario. just like that, another gorgeous day comes to a close. What an amazing day. We got the opportunity to go on a nature hike and see some woodpeckers, some wild turkeys. That was awesome. We got to go kind of explore this little campground a little bit around here and meet some people and talk to some people. We had a chance to meet our neighbors and talk to them about the SeaSucker kitchen and some of our setup here. I think they were pretty impressed with that setup, and we love sharing our setup, and we love sharing how we do things and kind of exposing other people to the overland community that they may not necessarily know. Some things I want to talk about is the ElecHive power bank. So it got down to about 30% last night using the Mark II on full blast, and tonight we're going to try a little bit of a different setup to see how much of the power bank it uses. But we've had that plugged in since we woke up this morning. It got down to 30%. So something to consider if you're considering how you're going to use this. And we're going to use it to run the Mark II and eventually a fridge. So we need to consider how we're going to charge it up to make sure that we have enough power throughout our trip. Even driving 4 to 5 hours, yeah, we're going to get a charge on it. We're going to get a positive charge on it, but we're not going to be able to max that thing out again unless it's a really long extended travel day of like 12 hours, which we are not game to do, for the record. So we got to utilize the Mark II smartly and figure out the best way to charge this. But with all that being said, I still think this is the package to go with. It is a small, lightweight battery bank, 2,500 watt hours. You can't ask for a better deal than this. Plenty of USB and 110 outlets, and I'll go through all that when we nerd out on the specifics here in a little bit. But all right, so even with all that said, I still think this is the ultimate package. I think it is a small, lightweight, powerful battery bank that's going to power all the things that we want it to. We just have to use it smartly, and I think that that's okay. 2,500 watt hours is a lot to ask for out of a power bank, and this thing delivers in the most spectacular way. So we're super excited. We're super gung-ho to put this thing into practice and use it in our kit. We're still going to use the little 160 jackery to run the lights in the tent and power our cell phones and things like that. But that's all that's going to be used for. But man, what an upgrade, right? We went from the 160 to 2,500 watt hours. Fantastic. Well, night number 2, we're climbing up in the tent now, just kind of talking through our configuration because it's a little different than last night's. Last night was full bore, rocket mode, max cooling. Tonight we're on the snowflake mode, going down about 1 or 2 from the max amount. I think it's going to be a good balance between cooling the tent down and the draw on the ElecHive here. Right now we're about 132 watts, which is buying us about 19.1 hours continuous draw until the battery bank is empty. So that gets us about 4.5 hours, a little over 4.5 hours from last night on full bore. That's a pretty big deal. That's pretty substantial for what we do. It allows us to keep the reserves up a little bit and be able to charge it a little better as we drive through the trail. So I think that's where we're going to land. It's going to be a good mix between what we're trying to accomplish here. But now everyone's kind of in bed, so it's my turn to climb into bed. But I just wanted to update on how we're going to configure the air conditioner for tonight, different from last night, and it's going to be a pretty good test. So I'm looking to see how it cools down the tent, how comfortable we are, and see if this is maybe the setting that we land on. So we're just about all packed up, and I want to take a chance to kind of walk through the ZeroBreeze Mark II and the ElecHive power bank that we've been using to power the air conditioner unit. It's kind of what this trip is all about, learning this gear and learning how to best suit it to our setup, and to see if it benefited us at all. And spoiler alert, it did. It benefited us huge. But let's take a chance to walk through the Mark II with you guys a little bit here. So this is the Mark II ZeroBreeze air conditioning unit. It's relatively quiet. It's about as loud as a desk fan, or a little bit quieter than that. We had no issue sleeping through this thing. It didn't make any weird noises, no ticking like a diesel heater or anything like that. It just is a quiet hum putting out cold air, and we loved it. It's got a couple different settings that we used, right? So the first night you saw that we used a rocket mode, which is full bore, full blast, full cooling, max fan speed. It's just meant to get your tent as cold as possible, as fast as possible, but it's going to draw a ton of power, and these things are already pretty power hungry. So it's going to wear your battery down pretty quick, like you saw in the first night. Then you have the snowflake mode, which is its cooling mode, and you have some fan speeds. You have 4 fan speeds. Last night we were on the snowflake mode and on fan speed number 3, and it barely drained this battery. It was awesome, and it kept the tent nice and cool to the point where I think the girls in Kalen got a little cold. So that's reassuring. It's got a flashlight mode. This as a flashlight alone would be ridiculous, but it would work to illuminate your tent a little bit if you use this on the inside of the tent. We opted to place it on the outside of the tent just because we didn't want any water, moisture, or any condensation or anything like that on the mattresses. So all that was outside the tent. Which brings me to my next point. This is IPX4 rated, so it's going to withstand your basic weather, like your morning dew, some dust getting kicked up, stuff like that, but it's not going to be able to withstand, or it's not rated to withstand, I should say, a torrential downpour. Now, Asia from Baptism Overland unfortunately left his unit out in a torrential downpour at the Southeast Adventure Vehicle Expo, and it worked just fine. They're not rated for that. Nobody is saying that you should do that, but just be aware that if you get caught in the rain, you'll probably be okay. He's still using the same unit with no issues whatsoever. It does come with an expandable outlet hose. You can see the water dripping off of it because we used it this morning. And then it's also got your intake and exhaust hose that keeps the hot air away from the cold air, so you get better performance out of this unit. And then you also have a short drain hose, which you may need to extend depending on your application, so the water just doesn't drip down on the unit itself and the battery. That's the Mark II in a nutshell. It's, like I said, about 26 pounds. It's not super loud, but it does an incredible amount of performance for its small package. It is power hungry, so think about how you're going to use it and the best way to use it. But we're super excited. We're super thrilled to have this and add it to our kit. And I think we're sold on it after using it for a couple nights and in a couple weeks in the garage gym. There's so many different applications, from camping to garage gym to working on your car to, I mean, you name it. You can use this thing, and I think that's really super cool and super versatile. The other thing it comes with is a little remote, so if you're like us and you put this outside the tent, you don't want to have to unzip your window and reach out there and try to make adjustments. You can use this little remote to make the adjustments from inside the tent, turn it on, turn it off. You get the light, which will make this glow and give it a little soft lighting if you're into that. You get some fan speed, sleep mode, cool and strong. The other thing I failed to mention was that this has a dedicated fan mode, so it'll just blow air. It won't blow cooling, and that doesn't take much power at all. So if you're looking for just a fan one night without draining the battery bank too much, that's the ticket for that. All right, let's kick over to probably the most exciting part of this whole setup for us is this 2,500 watt-hour power bank from ZeroBreeze. It's the ElecHive unit. It's about 40 pounds, so it's a little heavy, but it's not a huge package, right? Just a couple shoe boxes stacked on top of each other. On the front, we have 4 110 volt outlets, and they're all guarded from the weather and things like that. So if this lives in your truck bed, as long as it doesn't have constant rain pouring down on it, I think you'll be fine. Again, Asia's was caught out in a tropical storm, and his works just fine as well. So they're not rated for it, but they'll probably survive it once. And then you have several USB connectors, a couple USB-Cs, your Anderson connector for solar power or things that take your Anderson connectors, as well as another power source jack here. Just like every other power bank out there, you have ways to turn on your individual outlets so they're not drawing power all the time. This looks like it's a cigarette lighter or a 12 volt lighter. It's not. It's an Anderson connector, but it comes with a 12 volt adapter that plugs right into it. And there's a couple reasons why they did that. You can read that on the website. But it's pretty interesting what they opted to include in this and what they didn't. On the back side, we have all our charging ports. There's some cool stuff going on back here. So they're all guarded, right? You have your auto sweep. You can either turn it on or off. Ours is currently set to on, but it didn't affect the performance at all. It's just gonna make it so if you leave it powered on after a little while, it will turn itself off. Now, that's only if nothing is connected to it. If you're powering something or power source, it won't turn off on you until you tell it to turn off, which I think is pretty interesting and pretty important. We have our 1250 watt charger. So they sell a charger that will charge this unit up in about 2 hours. This is a lot of power. It's a big transformer. We don't have that unit, but you have a receptacle for it. Then you have your receptacle for your normal charging, your 240 watt normal charging. Now don't worry about getting these confused and mixed up. They are keyed differently. So you won't be able to get your 240 watt into your 1250 or your 1250 into your 240. They are gonna take their individual plugs. The 240 is the one that comes with the unit itself, and it takes about 8 hours if you were to drain this to charge it all the way up. With that power receptacle. Then we have our charge or discharge toggle, and we have the option to allow our battery bank to discharge down to 100% completely empty, or we can stop it at 90% if we want to make sure that we have a reserve in the unit itself. So in our testing and our experimentation of how we run these units, we found a couple things that we think are noteworthy. If you're running the Mark II off of shore power or like a wall plug at a RV park or something like that, that transformer gets really, really hot. Almost too hot to touch. From what I've read online, it seems normal, but it is a little concerning, right? You want to look out for electrical fires in your tent, things like that. However, when we switched it over to the ElecHive, it was normal temperature, super cool, barely even noticeable. So I think that's an important distinction to make, is that this doesn't make your transformer super hot. Now when we charge the ElecHive, however, off of shore power, so just be aware that your transformers might generate some heat. So if you're trying to cool down your tent with the transformer in there charging something, you're really kind of fighting a battle of cooling and heating cycles. What I like about this unit and on the screen is it will tell you how much time you have left until complete discharge of your battery bank. And I think that's a cool feature to have, and it's a cool feature to know. We're gonna utilize our power bank to run a fridge in the future here, but mostly just this Mark II air conditioning unit. So we wanna know how much time we have left before we're completely empty based on what we like to do, which is camp, travel, and overland configuration. You can hook solar panels up to charge this. Obviously it's gonna take a long time, but solar panels may not be a good option for you, because if you do what we do, where we drive throughout the day, you're really not giving those solar panels a chance to catch up and charge this unit. So we're gonna end up charging it off of the car battery as we drive for 4 to 8 hours, and that's gonna give us, as long as we don't deplete it, a positive charge enough to get a full 8 hours of sleep with the air conditioner running, based on our math and the settings that we played with this weekend. So that brings us to the $1 million question. This is a pricey setup to run both of these. You're looking at about $4 grand. ZeroBreeze was so nice to bless us with these units to test out, to show you guys exactly how they work and whether or not we think that they're worth the price tag. And we think that they are. These are incredible units, an incredible power bank in a small package, an incredible air conditioning unit in a small package that's not going to take up much truck bed space. This is going to live in the cab next to the girls, and it doesn't take up any more space than what we were already running. So not a big displacement there. The cons are little, but the pros are huge. And so we're excited to add this to our kit and continue to use it and make summer camping in Florida that much more bearable, because it was torturous last year in July. But we're excited to kick this off, but we got to get things packed and get out of here. But if you're asking if we would spend our own hard-earned money on this, if ZeroBreeze didn't bless us with it, the answer is yes. Our friends are running it and they have nothing but good things to say. We're running it and we have nothing but good things to say. So if you have any questions, drop them down in the description below. I'll link the stuff in the description below. Head on over to ZeroBreeze.com, check it out, see what you guys think, and we're here to help and here to answer any questions you might have. But until then, we gotta finish packing up the truck and get out of here, but I can't wait to see you guys on the trail.
Go!